They think it's somebody else. And they only have that thought right here, right now. One narcissistic thought does not make one narcissistic. They are called narcissistic because people put the idea of past, present, and future onto one thought. And if they have that one thought over and over and over and over again, if the thought something like it's not my fault, or the thought is I need a crowd, I need a whole lot of people to like me, where's my crowd? Those are all narcissistic thoughts, just like depressive thoughts are poor me, this isn't worthwhile, this isn't good enough. Those are depressive kind of thoughts. But when you stop having those depressive thoughts, when you start having thoughts like everything is okay, no problems, no worries, it's nobody's fault at all. In fact, there's nothing to say fault. The idea of fault is in the narcissistic mind and the depressive mind also. They see something wrong. But these labels that the psychiatrists put on people doesn't cure them. There is a cure for the spiritual disease, and that is to change your mind. But psychiatrists don't change people. People don't get cured by going to a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist is more than likely going to make money from the pharmaceutical company by prescribing pills. And the pills don't help. May make you feel better for a little while, but in fact, there's not very many pills. That fentanyl, in fact, is based upon heroin. It's not a completely synthetic drug. It's more of a synthetic heroin. Got the same features of it. Antidepressants are almost always mood lifters, etc., like that, are the good old standard opioids.
Oh.
And so you get addicted to one drug after another, after another, after another, thinking that the drugs are helping when in fact the drugs are not doing anything at all. When you stop taking the drugs, if you continue taking the drugs, you'll be a whole lot worse. But if you stop taking the drugs, you recognize nothing's really happening. The only way to change one's mind chemistry is by changing the thoughts that create that chemistry. So if you have pills and negative thoughts, the pills are not going to help you.
Oh, yeah. It's just just like a temporary insulation.
It depends upon whether it changes your mood and changes your attitude and changes your mind, which it probably doesn't, and therefore it's not even temporary.
Oh.
Because nothing much has changed. You still have the same old depressive, the same old anxious, the same old narcissistic thoughts. But when we change our thoughts from unwholesome to wholesome, then that's the cure.
And that
By
that's
the way, go ahead.
oh, that's done at times other than meditation? That's done during regular just
I do not use the word meditation, and here's the reason for that: is because people see meditation as an isolated event. Like taking a meditation retreat means that they go and they do meditation in the meditation hall, but when they go to lunch, they're not meditating; they're eating lunch. So you can go to the meditation hall and hate it, and then go to lunch and still hate the meditation while you're eating, not even enjoying your food. And in fact, people generally see meditation as hard work, when in fact it's the best and easiest thing that you can do. That's why I don't use the word meditation. A much better word to use, in fact, is practice, to practice having wholesome thoughts. And so if somebody's going to do a retreat, going to go to a meditation place, the best thing to do is to practice having wholesome thoughts. Wow, while I'm in this meditation class, there's no place to go and nothing to do. I've got no pressure. I can just sit here and enjoy things and have happy thoughts. Everything is already okay. But people don't do that when they go to the retreat. When they go to the retreat, they want results. Oh, I got to work hard. I've got to get something. If I don't work hard, I won't get anything about it. And the whole point is that they're working too hard. Why not just take it easy? You're already okay. You got everything you need. All the work that needed to be done has already been done if you have that attitude. And when you have the attitude work needs to be done, then you're back into hindrances. You're back into unwholesome thoughts. The reality is that everything in real is okay. But in our culture, people have been taught that things need to be fixed. The society is broken. So the thing to do is to get away from all of those who think the society is broken, get away from them, because they're the ones that's broken. And how are they broken? By having thoughts that something is broken. So start having thoughts that things are broken, and now you're okay. The job that needed to be done was to stop having work to do.
Nearly everyone who I know thinks that society is broken.
Yeah, but their thinking that society is broken is the part that's broken.
Their perception of
There's
society.
nothing wrong with society. The only thing wrong with society is people in the society think that society is broken. In reality, society is okay. The world is just fine. Gravity is good. It keeps the air around so that we can breathe.
Yeah, society for the most part is functional. It is. I mean, a lot of the complaints people have are they're just being like spoiled brats anyway. Um,
But that's learned behavior with spoiled brat kind of thoughts. It's mine. It's me. I need it. It's their fault. And those are all spoiled brat kind of thoughts. Spoiled brats, when they're spoiled brats, are only having spoiled brat thoughts. They're not spoiled brats all the time. They're only spoiled brats when they're having spoiled brat thoughts. Just like a depression, the people are depressed only when they're having depressed thoughts. In fact, it's possible for people to have thoughts that are both depressing and brat like. You did it to
and have
me. It's your fault. Everything is screwed up and you did it. That's both brat like and depressing. And then we have the thought, only I can fix it, but you can't. And that's a narcissistic thought, that everything is broken and only I can fix it. The fact is that nothing's broken. Everything is already okay. I don't have any work to do. I don't have to fix anything because nothing's broken. This is the wholesome thought. So we need to come out of it's broken. It's their fault that it's broken. Only I can fix it. Those are all narcissistic, depressive, brat kind of thoughts. And when people have those thoughts one after another at that particular time, they're narcissistic, or they're a brat, or they're depressive. But when they stop having those kind of thoughts and start having happy, wholesome thoughts, then they're not that label anymore. So the labels actually don't work. They don't exist. Calling somebody a narcissist, calling them depressive, calling them a brat, it's not going to change. They're being a brat.
Yeah.
Calling yourself a brat, it's not going to change you from being a brat. Only changing brat thoughts into wholesome thoughts. That's the change. And it needs to be practiced because you've been practicing unwholesome, depressive, brat-like, narcissistic thoughts for all these years. Tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of unwholesome thoughts. You've been talking
Yeah.
yourself into feeling bad. Now it's time to start talking yourself into feeling good. But you have to practice because the habit is to have unwholesome thoughts. So we have to practice having wholesome thoughts. When do we practice? Whenever we remember. Not because we're sitting on the floor in the meditation hall. In fact, half the time the people are waiting for the bell to ring. Oh, I wish this was over. When is that bell going to ring? I'm not having fun now. And all they have to do is just change their attitude, change their mind, change the thoughts they're having.
Yeah, it's something that I've practiced for a long time is that for some reason I tend to get injured a lot, cuts or bruises or bangs, and I don't really notice it. I might notice some pain, but I don't notice it until later. I'll look at my knee or something and see there's blood, and then say, "Oh, I got injured at some point along the way."
And
Oh,
only then it
you know,
hurts.
it's not really that big a deal either. It's it's kind of just matter of fact. There's some blood there. I noticed a little bit of pain. Okay, there's
Yeah, but you notice the pain after you notice the blood. Here's the point that the whole time you weren't paying attention.
yeah, that's true.
You got hurt because you weren't paying attention, you weren't watching where you were going.
Yeah, and um, it's now is that not helpful? I mean, I uh, I had trained myself some time ago to ignore the pain and ignore these injuries, but there's something amiss if the injuries are happening to begin with.
Yeah.
Uh,
So start watching what you're doing so that you don't hurt yourself. Watch the way you use a knife so you don't cut yourself. Watch the way the place where you're putting your feet so you don't step on something like a cat or a roller skate or a
oh,
snake or a nail.
yeah.
That's the reason why people want to have boots, is so they don't have to watch where they're going. And they wind up falling down even with boots on.
Oh, yeah, that's huh.
So
It
waking up and paying attention to reality, see what's happening. But most people are not doing that. They're spending all their time having unwholesome thoughts, just spinning and spinning and spinning while they cut their finger.
oh, yeah. Oh, yes. I noticed that a correlation between negative thoughts followed by an injury. Yeah, that's happened a lot actually. Um, thousands of times.
Well, now that you reflect upon that and can see it happening, you can begin to do something about it. Start paying attention to the kind of thoughts that you're having and change them to wholesome thoughts. Like, wow, I can see what I'm doing. Wow, I'm going to watch where I'm going. Well, I'm going to be careful using this knife. Well, I'm going to remember where I put things so they don't get lost. How do we remember? Is by, well, I'm going to start watching when I put things down so that I can see where I put it down, and that'll register where I put it down.
So sometimes there's a surprise too, something that I didn't expect. Like I suddenly looked down. Oops, I just stepped in dog poop.
Mm-hmm.
That's
because you weren't watching where you were going. Now, there is a certain kind of meditation. They call it choiceless awareness, to where they actually are aware of the dog poop, but they step in it anyway.
Oh. Is that to desensitize?
No, it's just being stupid. So, in fact, they've got two kinds of dukkha. One is the first kind of dukkha is that I see it coming. And then the second kind of dukkha is that I stepped in it. They would have better off is I don't see it coming and then I step in it. Now I've only got one kind of dukkha. They in fact see it coming and have dukkha, and then they step in it and have dukkha. The right thing to do is to see it coming and make sure that you get out of its way, or better still, step aside.
That's kind of like the deer in the headlights. They see it coming and they just stand there.
Mm-hmm. That's
Yeah,
what a lot of meditation is all about, is seeing it like a deer in the headlights and not getting out of the way, not getting out of the road. And so those unwholesome thoughts run slap into them.
Oh. Are they practicing improperly? Is that why that's happening?
Yes. Almost all of the practice, especially if they call it meditation, is unwholesome, unhelpful, wrong practice. Right practice is to be alert, watch what's going on, to remember what you're doing, to remember what your thoughts are, to remember where you're going, to look and see what's happening, to be in reality on the outside and on the inside, so that you can see what's happening and then respond correctly. Because you can see it. You can see that unwholesome thought, step out of its way. Make a change. You're walking down the sidewalk and there's dog poop right in front of you. Don't continue down your stride. Make a change. Step out of its way. Now, there is a kind of meditation that goes even differently than that. And then it is that they see the dog turd in front of them. They pick the dog turd up. They take it into the house. They investigate it. They put it in the blender. They chop it up. They mix it with sauce and they eat it. This is what is called in the West the Mahasi method, the noting. You got to note that dukkha well. You got to take that dukkha in and inspect it and mull it around and eat it. And they call that meditation.
Oh, is that Vipassana?
Yes.
Is Vipassana not good to practice, or?
It depends upon whether you're practicing correctly or not.
Oh.
If you're practicing correctly, then Vipassana is to see in with insight, aha, this thought is unwholesome. Let me change it. But the incorrect practice is, aha, I see that. Let me inspect it. Let me ask where it comes from. Let me take a really good look at it. Let me see where its friends are. Let me have some more dukkha, 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 dukkha. And the teacher of the Buddha teaches to change, to come from your dukkha out of the dukkha. Don't play with dukkha. Get rid of it. You see that it's unwholesome. You see that that dog turd is, in fact, a dog turd. Don't step in it. Don't pick it up. Don't play with it. Just boogie
Don't
on
eat
down
it.
the road. Don't step in it. Change your stride, but don't step in it.
Yeah, that's
So the insight then that they're looking for is the insight of, oh, if I eat enough dog shit, then I'll become a dog.
that doesn't sound like the goal.
Well, the
Yeah,
idea then
that's
is that when they find out that they've eaten so much dog shit that they've turned into a dog, that's when they call it the dark night of the soul.
oh.
And there's
So
really
the
no reason to have a dark night of the soul, but that's very common in Vipassana. It's very common in the noting method.
oh.
But the Buddha wouldn't recommend having a dark night of the soul. The Buddha would recommend when you see your fear, come out of it. When you see your misery, come out of it. But the dark night of the soul is so much fear, so much misery, so much despair, so much disgust that they can't stand it anymore. And then they start making a change. Right.
Is
Well, you could have started making the change when it was just a little dog turd on the street. You didn't have to make a change after you got your whole kitchen full of dog shit.
oh. It's
So that's the kind of insight we're talking about is immediate, instant. See that that's a dog turd and don't step in it. Don't play with it. Get rid of it. Walk around it.
so avoid that uh house avoid that clutter in the house full of dukkha. Don't let it build up to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It it reminds me a lot of about some people think that suffering is a virtue.
Oh,
And
that's very Christian.
yeah,
They hung
they want
Jesus up. They don't even know why Jesus was crucified, but they think that he's their Lord and their Savior, and he suffered, therefore I should suffer too.
oh, yeah, it's
In fact, Jesus got crucified because he got caught doing
uh,
something really, really negative, really damaging. He really, really screwed up when he waltzed into that temple and started messing with the bankers.
oh,
Within a week, he was dead. Within a week, they hung him up to dry.
oh,
And most Christians, they don't want to look at it that way. They don't want to look at their Lord and Savior actually got crucified because he screwed up big time. He messed with the wrong people and they messed back. If he'd have walked
mm,
into that temple and say, I feel so bad because these people are having money changing in the temple and I don't like it, maybe he could have changed his attitude and his mind, turned around and walked out. Another possibility, he could have gone to Caiaphas, the head priest, and says, you know something? Don't you think that this is a holy place, this temple place? Why don't you have those bankers move out under a tent out in the courtyard and let them do that business there? That way, you have the temple to yourself. But more than likely, what was going on is that Caiaphas wanted the bankers inside the temple so he could get a piece of the action.
Oh, like a taxation on the bankers.
Yeah, like taxing the bankers. Get a piece of the action, get his cut. And if he puts them all out in uh, the courtyard, then he might not be able to control them so well. And so Caiaphas probably wants all of those bankers in his temple. But it would
Oh,
be worth a while. It might be worthwhile to go and talk to Caiaphas and see if he'll make a change. You can mention to him that with proper skill, you can still tax the bankers even if they're in a tent outside the gate.
huh.
But Jesus didn't do that. He didn't do either one of those things. He freaked out. He wanted his way. He was having a whole bunch of what you would call at that point in time narcissistic thoughts. I'll fix this. He had bully thoughts. I'm the big dude here. I'm the one who's going to fix these bankers. Now, one of the things about bankers is they want to keep track of their money. And these bankers were sitting at tables. If he threw the tables over, that means the bankers had a great big fight over who got what coin off the floor. So they were really ticked off at him, not because he overturned their tables, it's because they lost track of their fortune.
Oh.
And so naturally, they're going to work with Caiaphas to have this goad put away and string him up. Then all of the followers around Jesus says, "Oh no, what could that happen? It must have been planned. It must have been preordained. It must have been something that needed to be done. Maybe Jesus will suffer and therefore we will suffer less. Maybe Jesus
I-
is our Savior. He called himself the Son of God. Maybe he got crucified so that he could get God to save us."
Hmm.
The fact is, we're all Son of God. You're either Son of God or you're a bastard. Which do you choose?
Uh, did you say a master of choice?
No, I said a bastard. You're either
Oh, a
born of
bast.
God or you're born of the devil. Which do you want to do? It's up to you.
Oh.
Have wholesome thoughts is born of God. Having unwholesome thoughts is born of the devil. But those are just metaphors. And so one of the best things for us to do to really see what's going on is to stop speaking in metaphors and start speaking in reality.
Oh. Yeah, a lot of people have a different interpretation of what the metaphor means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a really good example of that is you've seen Aesop's fable of the tortoise and the hare.
Oh, a little bit. You sure? Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, what's the point of the story? Is the point of the story is that you can sleep all day and enjoy yourself whether you win the race or not, or is the metaphor slow and steady will make progress? What's the point of the story? People have all kinds of things that they think. Maybe the rabbit should have gone ahead and run the race rather than taking a nap along the way. Maybe the
Oh.
tortoise could have had a nap with the rabbit. Why have a race anyway? What's the point of having a race between a tortoise and a hare? Maybe one of them's NASCAR and the other one's Formula One, but NASCAR and Formula One, they don't race against each other. So when you have that metaphor, then where are you going to go with it? There's all kinds of places to go. Just like the metaphor of Adam and Eve. It's just a metaphor. And the Christians get all hung up on talking snakes, and the girl did it first, and was it an apple? Because they get hung up on the word fruit. But the word fruit actually means something different than an apple, a pear, or a piece of fruit like that. In fact, what the word fruit can also mean is fruit of your labor, fruit of your loins, fruit of the loom, or another way of looking at it is the result of your behavior. And so Adam and Eve had to eat of the fruit of their behavior. And what was their behavior? Behavior that was based upon their knowledge of good and evil. So here they are living in a paradise, and they go around that paradise saying, I like this, but I don't like that. This is good, this is evil. And by bringing good and evil into the world, they destroyed paradise. And now we do that same thing. We just live in reality, but we make it into a heaven or a hell, depending upon our attitude. But both of those attitudes making it into a heaven because now they're disappointed because it's not a good enough heaven, or they're making it into a hell because they don't like it already. And so they wind up in disappointment. They wind up in dukkha. But if you just let the paradise that you're in be okay, it's already okay. Let's not
Yeah,
judge things.
that that's become something kind of new in my practice, um, of just being thankful. I mean, I feel like I live in a paradise, and I feel just thankful to have what I have.
Yeah, that's all
And
you got. Be grateful. Be happy. Be joyful. Graciousness, gratitude is all part of being joyful. It leads
and
to being generous.
oh, I have one dog in particular. She, as far as she can tell, life is completely perfect. Um, she does something very similar to cats, like how cats pet themselves on someone's leg, that they rub up against someone's leg. Well, one of my dogs does that. She
Yeah, but a
either
lot of animals do that. Goats will
mm,
do that. There are videos that I've seen of somebody getting a baby cow or a baby elephant or a baby uh, muskrat, maybe a bird, and after a while, they begin to saddle up just like the cat does. Humans do that too.
mm,
So it's
yeah,
not a cat behavior. It's just something that sometimes an animal does that. It's just a thought process. It's the same thing that we've been talking about. But in fact, that's kind of more wholesome than biting your leg,
oh,
which cats will do.
oh yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Dogs
I've
and
been
cats.
feeling
I've seen
that.
both dogs and cats. For instance, you're sitting on the floor playing the guitar, and the guitar book is right in front of you. The cat's going to come and lay down on the book. So will the dog. So will your wife. Your wife will do that. They'll come and mess with whatever you're paying attention to.
Yeah, they do that.
That's just animal behavior, and we're animals. Can you see that behavior? Can you watch it? Can you know that it's happening right in that present moment?
Does you mean like any kind of animal behavior, or
Pardon?
any kind of animal behavior?
Well, that's what animals do, is they behave,
Yeah.
and humans are animals. They behave,
Mm.
but generally dogs are not taught about a bunch of unwholesome. Now, it's possible to train a dog to be a vicious animal. You mistreat the dog, and he'll start acting like a vicious animal.
Yeah.
But normally we don't. Normally we pet our dogs, we love them, and they love us back, because that's the training that they've gotten. If you ignore the dog, he'll ignore you. Depends upon the
Mm.
training. But look how badly humans train their own offspring.
Oh, terrible.
And so now you're the example of the kid who grew up with really, really bad training. Time to
Yeah.
retrain your mind. You got to go through that retraining process. Start training the mind to have wholesome thoughts.
Is that is that done also during a state of anapanasati to notice the negative thoughts and to change them?
Absolutely. And to change them,
Yeah.
to note them and to change them to wholesome thoughts over and over and over again. That's the practice. And you can practice anytime you remember to practice. And the more often you remember, the more you practice, the more skilled you develop. So it's best to start off intentionally, to spend 5 minutes saying, I'm going to intentionally remember to have wholesome thoughts. And then after you leave, you can begin to have that memory of, oh, I can have a wholesome thought right now. I don't have to have an unwholesome thought. And you start to change. And pretty soon you're changing consistently because you're remembering consistently. Takes practice.
Mm, that's good, girl.
So I recommend you go practice having wholesome thoughts.
Mm, I
Go
will.
practice having can-do thoughts. I can do this. I can fix that. So this is probably a good time for us to finish.
Yeah, she's asking for dinner.
Mm-hmm. So you go have wholesome thoughts while fixing the dog's dinner.
That sounds like a good practice for tonight.
Yes. All right. Well, we'll see you later then.
Okay, yes. Let's see.